piece we're talking about is called Life in Sellsville. The other one is Life in the Blackberry Patch.
And this is Amina Brenda Lynn Robinson.
Yes, we're talking about...
She's a genius.
An artist from Columbus, Ohio. Life in Sellsville is 1871 to 1900, and Life in the Blackberry Patch is 1900 to 1930. These pieces are on display at the Columbus Metropolitan Library.
Always a great place. They sit on the side of a stairwell going up or down if you're coming down.
It's acrylic paint on linen that's been applied to the staircase to look as if it's painted as a mural. I think they were a great choice to put at this urban library so you can get a sense of the history of the area. She spoke at my college graduation, and it was one of those moments where you feel like, I'm in awe of you, I love everything you're saying. What I took away from it was her love. Like, she exudes, to me she still does exude it because her art's still around for us to enjoy. Her life was art.
Yeah.
The way she lived her life.
Yeah. Yeah, she went beyond just creating art. And I actually, in preparation for all this, I watched a few interviews about her. And in one of her interviews, she even said, what I do isn't art. You know, I make things. She used whatever was available, which is the one thing I love about her. Everything around her became her medium. Because
she cared enough about what she was growing up and learning, and she was born in 1940, and she cared enough about what was happening in her world. She could see that it was worth communicating to the future and to future generations. She grew up in a place called Poindexter Village, and before that, it was known as the Blackberry Patch. It consisted of rows of shacks devoid of sanitation and amenities, housed many who came to Columbus during the Great Migration. The area looked exactly like the cabin towns the people had left in the South, put together from pieces of scrap.
People would just leave things on her doorstep for her, pieces of fabric or sticks.
But people that lived there and made it a community are what she celebrates in her art.
Yeah, well, and I think, like, just thinking about how they even made their houses, they piece together stuff, and that is exactly what Amina does. She pieces together things that she finds.
So I'm sitting here with Judy, and she owns a piece of art by Amina Robinson. And I wanted to know, Judy, tell me what your feelings are about the piece that you own.
The piece is very special to me. This quilt is a family quilt made by my great-grandmother, Florence Maxwell.
Oh, okay. And you had an opportunity to meet Amina and give her the quilt?
I did. I knew Amina. Amina called me on the phone and asked a few questions about my great-grandmother.
Okay.
And I don't even know how long it was, but literally in a brown shopping bag came this folded piece. I was deeply touched when my uncle visited years later, and he was Florence's youngest grandson.
Okay.
When I showed him this piece with this quilt, was blown away. It is very special to me. She was a very special person.
Wow. So did you have a chance to get to know what Amina was like as a person in the brief you did interact with her.
Oh, absolutely. I was at family functions. There was a birthday party for her at an art gallery in our neighborhood that I was invited to.
She just seems very authentic, genuine, no pretense about her. Would you agree with that?
Absolutely. Whatever fame, notoriety, whatever she had, it never touched her.
So what a great treasure you have in having met her, and also in the piece that you now own.
Yes.
Well, thank you for your time, Judy.
Yes, thanks.
I know she used a lot of everything. There were tactile things, there were visual things, there were sounds even. She had music boxes in her art, that. Not in the piece that we're talking about at the library. She had a way of capturing truth and real life, but in an engaging, not judgmental kind of a way. It's what when I look at her,
way.
yeah, it's just truthful.
This is how it is or how it was.
Yeah.
But also she could draw out the good of any situation, which I think is...
We could all learn from that.
You know, because there is good in every situation. Yeah, there is a lot of bad, and I don't doubt that she saw a lot of bad things or experienced a lot of bad things.
She had to.
I don't know. You know, everybody does. Everyone suffers at some point.
She was a champion of civil rights. I know the era she grew up in. Her great aunt was an enslaved person. So she had stories that she would take those stories and work them into her art in a very authentic way.
She presented everything in a way that was gentle enough you could sit and think about these very difficult things, and then you could say, okay, this is how it was, now let's move forward, which is one of her big credos for life is you have to know where you've been,
right,
to know where you're going.
The village she grew up in was called Poindexter. It's gone now, but Poindexter Village was built upon what was the Blackberry. And also the upper stair is commemorating Sellsville. It was the winter home of a circus. The cool thing is the community was very integrated. This was in 1871. And,
Sellsville was?
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, okay, I don't believe in utopias, but kind of a utopia.
Yeah, it sounds like it. It was, it's about 1,000 acres. They grow the food there for the animals, and they would house them there, and then they would employ the people that lived in the area to take care of the animals. And it was a town, but it was identified by its primary tenant, which was the Sells Brothers Circus.
Huh.
So they.
So if you wanted to join the circus, that was actually really an option.
It was actually.
You didn't even have to run away. Just go down the street.
Then there were stories about how the animals would get out, and people would find monkeys in their on their porch or in the in the backyard. I would love to find an elephant walking through my yard. I gotta say, but
unless it smashed your prize potted fern out there.
No, I don't care about that. I care about my fence, but.
Okay.
There was a school for the children that was completely integrated. They called it, this is what they called it, the polka dot school.
Polka dot school. Okay.
If you look at a picture of the school children, they were all kinds of colors.
Oh.
I know. It was a great thing.
That's very whimsical and sweet. See,
it's possible.
And I love hearing about this kind of stuff that happened so early on. What year did you say it was?
1870s, 1880s.
I mean, that's right after the Civil War. So the fact that people, you think, okay, these people embraced the whole idea, let's stop this all craziness. Let's just all get together. And I love that there are stories like this. Do you think that Amina ever wished she could have lived in Sellsville?
She probably would have thought it was great.
I think so too.
Yeah, I think she would have liked it.
Yeah.
Yeah, in fact, maybe sometimes when you make art like this, it's so that you can immerse yourself in it and feel like you were a part of it.
And she also said, they're never finished. That she could take a piece and add a little bit to it. And I kind of think that maybe she would be okay with people adding to her work. I don't know if you did it.
I don't know. I don't want to speak for her, but
don't I? It always comes around to me defacing people's art.
Yeah, what is that?
I love her, and this artist is going to be, if she's not already, because again, she's new to me, but she will be someone who we look back, 100 years from now and say, this woman documented what really happened, and she's important because of that.
The time that Amina's celebrating would probably have been really cool to be able to see, just a look down the street and what it was like. But you can get that sense in her art.
Oh yeah,
you really do. You feel like you're there.
Yeah, you feel like, I can see the people walking down the street.
So I have a question for you.
What's your question?
My question is.
Yeah. I don't know why I'm scared of your question.
You should be. No, don't be afraid. I know some people call her a folk artist.
Okay.
And I want to know, if you think of her as a folk artist or a fine artist.
Her composition is amazing. And at face value, if someone's plopped a piece of her artwork down in front of me, I'd say, yeah, she's a folk artist.
Folk art.
Is she a fine artist? She is a fine artist.
She is a fine artist.
Because she transcends simply creating a thing.
I think she was inspired by folk art. So I say she's a fine artist.
I would agree with you.
Who was inspired by folk art. But that's just. But when you make art that is meaningful, powerful, communicates ideas, and is timeless and is needed desperately, that is when, to me, it's fine art.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So this, I don't even think we have to ask the question, right?
It's pretty obvious.
Is it art? We both adore this woman and adore her art.
She's inspiring in lots and lots of ways. One in the what she believed in, but also the art technique she used. You can't get bored looking at her stuff.
No way.
No.
Yeah.
It's very engaging.
Yeah, Amina, no worries on your art being around forever.
Yeah. I agree.
I agree. It is art. It's beyond art. Okay, we should talk about her house. She donated her house and all of its contents to the Columbus Museum of Art. It's in there. Her house was packed. Like, as a minimalist, I could have visited, but I would have been like, Amina.
I wouldn't, but I wouldn't call her.
Stuff. Yeah, and have you seen her chair?
I've heard of it.
She built furniture, but this chair was beyond, like, it kind of like had a life of its own, I think. Right?
Oh my word.
Yeah, and little Amina she's just sitting in her chair.
She built it in her house. They had to literally take a wall out to get it out because it's so big.
Which is something any good artist will do. Just build something and not actually think about, is this ever gonna have to leave?
That's never, and I get all jazzed about a new brush. You probably make your own brushes.
I thought about it. I tried. It was very unsuccessful.
Did you really?
I did.
You tried to.
Okay, and here's, okay, it all started with, I started making my own makeup. Right. Well, you know about that. And so I started reading about makeup brushes, which I was not sold on the idea that makeup brushes. I was like, why can't you just use paintbrushes? So I started thinking, well, maybe I could just make my own brushes. And here's how far it went. So I started, I looked up, okay, so you need a stick for the handle.
Yeah.
And then you need a piece of metal to crimp everything.
Fair
And then I read, that,
Go catch a squirrel or something?
yes!
Did you go catch a squirrel?
No, but I read the best thing for makeup brushes was squirrel hair.
Squirrel hair.
You know this?
Yes.
Okay, apparently this. I thought this was some strange knowledge I had accumulated, which I have another animal part I need to talk about.
Oh no. Okay.
Okay, this will be in the outtakes. But yeah, I was like, well, my husband's a hunter. Maybe he would get me a squirrel.
I'm not having any part of this.
And then that was kind of where it ended. I was like, you know what? Am I really gonna skin a squirrel? Am I really gonna? I don't know. What do? Pull the hair out, cut it?
I don't know.
I don't know. But
it's beyond me.
all right. Do you want to hear my other? This is
okay. Go
I
ahead.
don't even think this is appropriate for this.
Tell me.
Okay.
Just film it anyway.
So we were on a women's retreat, and I don't even know how we got to discussing like vanilla ice cream maybe, or vanilla flavor, which I was like, oh, vanilla flavor, vanilla beans. I was like, that's where the vanilla comes from. And then there's this lady who was with us, and she said, well, did you know there's actually a gland on a beaver's behind?
Yeah.
Do you know? How do you know?
Yeah.
I don't mean to be sexist, but you know it was a guy who was like, I'm going to taste this.